Hi everyone, welcome back to TaraChessAcademy. Today we're going to be looking at a game between McDonald and De La Bourdonnais, and this was one of the famous games of the 19th century and was played in 1834. So we have this position here. So the starting moves were e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. So the Sicilian wasn't as common of an opening as now, and this is all pretty standard play. And black plays e5. This is a committal move, weakening the d5 square, and usually knight b5 is the most played move, but black has other ways to protect this square, but black is fine in this position. But white here plays knight takes c6, which is fine. And now black is able to capture toward the center and control the d5 square. And bishop to c4, knight f6, and now white has a few ways they can try to defend this pawn. One is the natural knight c3, and black could go with their bishop to b4, but they wouldn't really want to capture the knight to giving up their bishop here. So white would probably be able to continue normally, like queen e2 and castle on the next move. White could also try to play castles, and after knight takes e4, play rook to e1, trying to get the e5 pawn back. And this would be a fine position. But instead, white plays the move bishop to g5, which is a little bit questionable, trying to pin this knight. And we'll see that usually the bishop will have to end up capturing this knight, so it wouldn't be a good trade because we want to keep the bishop pair instead. So black plays bishop to e7. Black's ready to castle. And now queen e2, protecting the e4 pawn. And now d5, striking in the center. And now white decides to give up the bishop for the knight, which isn't really a good trade. And black's position is definitely better at this point. Bishop takes f6, bishop b3. And now both sides castle. Here, black plays a5. So there's two threats here. One is bishop a6, attacking the queen and the rook. And the other is a4, trapping the bishop. So the correct way to stop both these threats would be the move rook to d1, putting some pressure on the d5 square, and getting out of bishop a6. And here, if a4 is played, white is able to use this pin along the d file to play the move bishop to c4, and then they can continue after, let's say, bishop to b7. White can continue with the move knight to c3 and put more pressure on the center. And this would be the best approach. But here, white played the move c4. So first white captured, sorry. So white captured on d5 and rook to d1, attacking this pawn, d4, and now we have c4. So this is a really committal positional move because now it lets black have this passed d pawn, and this is like a really not a good thing for white to do here. And most players wouldn't do something like that. They'd probably go like knight to d2 or c3, trying to pressure this d4 pawn. So these are both natural moves, like knight to d2, getting ready for the knight to come to e4. The bishop would be safe on c4 if it's ever attacked. But c4 is played. Queen to b6. Now bishop c2. Now white has this trick. If black ever takes, which they won't, white will be able to capture on h7 and win the queen on b2. So bishop to b7, knight to d2. This is still not a possibility because white will go queen to d3, attacking this pawn on e4. And then after that, white can follow up with rook to b1, skewering the queen and the bishop. So this would be a big threat. So queen takes b2 wouldn't really be the best option for black here. Black actually plays a very interesting move. Most masters currently would play something like rook to e8, rook fe8, or maybe rook to d8. But black plays this move rook a to e8, blocking in this f8 rook. And the idea is that black wants to move the bishop back to d8 and get the f7 pawn to f5. Knight to e4. Now just controlling this, and taking on b2 is not really an option. So bishop to d8, preparing f5, c5, and still queen takes b2 isn't a good move because rook to b1 would win the bishop. So queen to c6, putting some pressure on this g2 pawn if this knight ever moves. So f3, now the knight can move to d6. Bishop t7, controlling this square. It was possible to go for f5 immediately, but after queen to c4 and king h8, white has this move knight to d6, which is very strong. So white's attacking the rook, and white has this threat of bishop to a4 coming up, and also threats like knight to f7 and capturing on f5. So this would be a premature decision for black. So bishop to e7, now just controlling this d6 square. Rook ac1, and now black decides to go for f5. But this actually allows a counter combination. The queen comes to c4, and now after king to h8, white has a very good move, which is knight to d6, and it's not obvious why it's that good, but after bishop takes d6, white can go bishop a4, and now black's best move would be to capture on c5, where they'd still be a bit better after the resulting captures. But any other move would just win the exchange after, and the bishop would be captured as well. So white would be able to capture and be up the exchange here. So this is not really an obvious move, but instead McDonald goes for the more obvious bishop a4, attacking the queen and the rook behind it. But the queen slides to h6, and this is an exchange sacrifice, but black is going to be able to capture this knight and get a bunch of strong pawns in the center, so they'd have compensation for the exchange sacrifice. So the bishop captures on e8, f takes e4, and now an important move here, c6. Now the bishop's attacked, and black plays an intermediate move, e takes f3, and it's not possible to capture on b7 because this would result in a checkmate. After the queen comes to e3, king goes to h1, and now black is able to capture on g2 and come rook to f2, and if the king goes to g1, white can move the rook over with the discovered check and then come in for a checkmate. So like let's say rook e2, and white is able to black can checkmate in this way. But instead, if king h1 is played, black can checkmate after queen to f3 and queen g2. So capturing on b7 isn't an option at this point. So black forces white to try to defend the position with rook to c2. And now here there's a move that's really not obvious, and it's a computer suggested move, which is bishop to a6, sacrificing the bishop, but the idea being that after e4, black has a really strong, these three pawns are really strong, and black will be able to win the game with these pawns. So they'll have enough compensation, and the bishop's still attacked as well. But the main idea is that these pawns are stronger than the material that white has with these rooks, and we'll see that happen in the game. So instead, queen to e3 is played, and now the best idea to defend is putting the rook in this pin. So now that after the pawn captures on g2, white has a resource to try to defend the position, which is queen to e2 and offering this trade, and there's no way for the queen to keep putting pressure on this rook. So now white would have a good position. But instead, white plays king to h1, and now this is the final mistake for white, and from here on, black's position is completely winning, and it still requires some technique, so we'll be able to see how black finishes off the game. So bishop to c8, bishop d7, now f2, getting the pawns closer to promoting. Now rook f1, d3, rook c3, and we have this position. And black plays e4, and we can see these pawns are much stronger than these two rooks. And with the queen here as well, it won't be possible to stop the promotion. So queen to c8. Now the idea is that black has to defend against the queen capturing on f8. And let's say if black just plays a random move like h6, white can capture on f8 and promote to a queen, deflecting the bishop away from the defense. But instead, black plays this move bishop to d8, just blocking this promotion square. Queen c4. Now really strong queen e1, threatening to capture this rook on f1 and give checkmate. And if the rook captures, black is able to promote and checkmate as well. So rook c1 is the only move. And now d2. And white can't capture on e1 because either way black captures. Now black will be able to recapture and create this checkmate on f1. So after queen to e1, rook c1, d2, now queen c5, and do you know what the final move here is for black to stop white's threats here? So black can play the move rook to g8 and get the queen and get the rook out of the queen's attack. And after rook to d1, black plays e3, queen to c3, and now the cleanest win is queen captures on d1, rook captures on d1, and e2, and black will be able to promote and give a back rank checkmate no matter what white does. So I hope you enjoyed this game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Bye.